Hi, I'm Jazz Orbeck, and welcome to my Talking Guitar podcast. Up until now, everything I've posted has been interviews with musicians, but today we're going to vary that, and I'm going to present an interview I did with a manufacturer of effects devices. The recording you're about to hear is my September 1978 interview with British guitar effects wizard Roger Mayer. A bit of background. After earning degrees in electrical and mechanical engineering, Roger worked in sound and vibration analysis for the British Admiralty. Then, in 1963, he began making fuzz boxes for Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page, who used them while they were in the Yardbirds. In early 1967, Roger met Jimi Hendrix. Soon afterwards, he showed Jimmy his latest creation, an octave-producing device he named the Octavia. Just a few weeks later, Jimmy invited him to meet him in the studio, where Roger watched as Jimmy used his Octavia on his recordings of Purple Haze and Fire. As you'll hear, Hendrix invited Roger to accompany him on tour and help him with the sound of some of his most important concerts. As the 70s progressed, Mayer's devices were used to great effect by Ernie Isley of the Isley Brothers, Peter Frampton and Steve Marriott with Humble Pie, and several other notable acts. Not long after I became an editor for Guitar Player magazine, I sought out Roger to ask him about his creations and the musicians who popularized them. I should point out that this interview occurred very early in my time at Guitar Player magazine. At that particular time, I wasn't that familiar with effects devices because I was an acoustic guitarist, so some of my questions will probably reflect my lack of knowledge. But hey, that's how we learn. Anyway, here's that conversation. I hope you enjoy it.
How did you grew up around Page, Clapton, and Beck?
Well, not so much Clapton. We just all grew up in the same neighbourhood, you know. I knew Jimmy Page, you know, used to come around my house a lot, so did Jeff Beck, you know.
Yeah.
Both of them we were very young. We all come from the same sort of neighbourhood, really. Like within, say, 2 or 3 miles, you know, 4 miles.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And how did you become interested in electronics, and particularly the fuzz box?
I think it was primarily instigated by... There was one record that came out, you know, the first time I think anyone heard it. I think it was a 2,000 pound B by the Ventures, you know.
Uh-huh.
The record by the Ventures called the 2,000 pound B.
Uh-huh.
And, I think that's what sparked off the interest in England. That's the first record I can remember, or remember anyone paying any attention to. I don't know if it was the first record, but it was certainly the record that a few people took notice of in England, you know.
And what did you do? How did you start developing fuzz boxes?
Well, I don't know. You know, I used to work for the Admiralty, and then we started just developing that same sort of distortion sound, you know.
For the Admiralty?
Well, yeah, I used to work for the English Admiralty at the time.
Oh, okay. Let me try to put this in order now.
Yeah.
You went to Surrey University first?
Oh boy. It's complicated in England, you know. This is why it doesn't make a lot of sense to the Americans. When I went to work for the government, right, in England, they have a scheme where you get like block release, and they send you to a university or a college of technology while you're at work, and you study for your degree while you're also like doing a sort of an apprenticeship thing, you know.
What year did you start working for the government?
I think it was 63.
And when did you quit?
About 68.
And what kind of stuff were you working on?
Well, I can't say.
Oh, I see.
Some official secret text.
And then you developed a fuzz box?
And then, well, yeah, while I was sort of there, you know, it was a thing I used to do as my hobby, you know.
Yeah, your first fuzz box?
Yeah.
What was different about it from the one that you heard, like the Ventures did?
It was, the first ones were used by Page and Big Jim Sullivan, you know, on a bunch of records. What was different? I guess they probably were slightly, had more sustain, and the transition between the notes as you play from note to note would be somewhat cleaner, you know, than
Cleaner?
That's one of the most important things. In other words, that if you're going to use an electronic device, that it really doesn't sound that electronic. It becomes part of the music, even though it is electronic, if you sort of see what I mean.
Yeah, now how did you achieve how did you make it cleaner from the standard fuzz boxes of the day?
Oh, well, that would be, releasing proprietary secrets, and, it's hard to say, obviously, through, very careful experimentation and, what should we say, we can't tell anyone exactly how we do it, it's from probably, researching into it a bit more carefully than was first thought necessary, yeah.
Okay.
That's the best way to put it, really,
Yeah, what was your relationship, you said that Page used some of your fuzz boxes. What songs did he use them on?
They used them on Heart for the Soul, on the early Yardbirds stuff. They used, or was that Beck? They used them on Page used them on a bunch of stuff. I don't know. There was an article written about Page said some of the songs he used them on. Used them on some of the earlier stuff. When he was working on sessions.
And with the Yardbirds?
Yeah, when with the Yardbirds.
What was this relationship with the Nashville Teens? Was this at the same time?
Yeah. But what the relationship with the Nashville Teens was, I developed some pickups, some piano pickups that we used on the piano for the which were contact pickups that we had specially made for us, that we used on their road show, and a lot of other people started using our piano pickups, afterwards,
Who?
Jesus, God knows. Let me think. I think Jeff Hotel bought some. I think some. There's a bunch of other groups. This is going back so long. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What year was this about?
Around about 64.
64. The Nashville Teens got them.
About that. 64. Around that 64 through 67, probably.
And when were you developing them for? When did you let Page use them? From when to when?
When to when?
Yeah.
He started. I guess we started around 1963.
Is that after you? PJ Proby was the first one to use it.
Well, the first. Not. I wouldn't say it was on the first record, but the first successful record, was a couple of PJ Proby hits, and that was with the guitarist was Big Jim Sullivan, who later went on to be lead guitarist for Tom Jones and that,
And he used it on Hold Me.
Hold Me. He used it on. The other record was Together.
Together.
Yeah.
Now, how did the Rolling Stones end up using it on Satisfaction?
Well, from what I was told, and this is why I say we could include it or we couldn't. Pagey told me that they actually lent it to Keith and it was used on the session.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't have documented fact because I never actually sold them one of our fuzz boxes, but I distinctly remember that. But there again, there could be an error in that, because at that time the Stones were just sort of becoming popular, and Page and Beck and everyone was pretty much like hanging out together, So I mean, it was a case that as I said, I don't really have absolutely documented fact on that, to be absolutely frank with you, but I remember absolutely certain I've been told it. You know what I mean? But that's it's no big thing one way or another,
Yeah, Roger. What made you decide to go with Hendrix when you first saw him?
Well, it's not a case that made me decide to go with him. I first saw him on TV.
Yeah.
Are you recording this?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, never don't have to repeat myself. What happened was that we saw him down this club, the Bag of Nails. I first saw him on TV, on a show called Ready Steady Go, and he did his song Hey Joe.
Yeah.
And I remember that I said, damn, man, this guy, it was incredible. It was just like, I don't know. I don't think we've ever had it. I've never been excited by any one, man. It was so incredible. And then I had a chance to see him down this club, the Bag of Nails, and we went down there. It was literally like, I suppose, a very good cross-section of the English pop people were down there, you know, people like the Beatles and a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
And I just spoke to him afterwards, and I guess, you know, we just sort of hit it off, you know, because the next week I went down to see him at another gig at a place called Chislehurst Caves, you know, and I brought some of my experimental electronics that we'd been playing with, and he played with it in the dressing room, you know. I didn't use it on stage the first night.
What kind of stuff was it, Roger?
It's a device
The Octavia?
the Octavia, yeah, and that's a complicated octave-producing device. Basically, it doubles the frequency of the note, and it also
I'm sorry, doubles the frequency.
Doubles the frequency of the note, and it also introduces some frequency-modulated type effects into the sound. You know, it can make the guitar sound like a clarinet. It can make the guitar sound like a flute. Do an awful lot of things. You know, it was used on the Band of Gypsies album. It was used on Purple Haze, Fire, a whole bunch of records. You know, Foxy Lady. You know.
Could you give me a little bit of the history of the Octavia?
Well, I'll tell you, it was first developed, as I said, primarily just before my meeting with Hendrix. It may be a period of months, you know. We're just getting it together. And when I met him, I showed him, you know, and...
What's it look like physically?
Well, what did it look like and what it looks like now is completely different. The actual enclosures were varied. You know, we've made say 3 or 4 different styles of actually enclosure for it. That's the outside appearance is not so much important as the what's internally, of course. You know.
Can you talk about that at all?
What electronically?
Yeah.
Well, not really, because it's still proprietary. You know, like exactly what we actually do. You know, but we actually do. Effectively double the frequency of the notes. You know, we can add forms of distortion, forms of second harmonic.
Fuzz distortion?
Pardon?
Did you say you can add fuzz distortion?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you know, you use the word fuzz distortion. There's so many different ways to actually add distortion. You know, I mean, you could write a book about it, you know.
Yeah.
In knowing, it's like a study, I guess, of, you know, if you're going to do things, you know, there's so many things you can do that are supposedly wrong that can end up sounding right, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a study of knowing exactly what to do, you know, that's supposedly incorrect. Because, I mean, once you deviate from a perfect amplifier, you know, you're doing something wrong.
I'm sorry, once you what?
Well, once you deviate from designing, say, a perfect amplifier, which in essence does nothing except make the signal larger, you are doing something incorrect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of theory, you know. So, I mean, it becomes a very sort of... it's an exercise in knowing exactly what to do wrong, you know? Because when you design a circuit and something's incorrect about it, there's an awful lot of complex changes that actually occur, you know? And it's having the understanding or some understanding of what's going on that enables one to sort of develop a sound that might be termed unique or different, you know. Because, I mean, you know, all fuzz boxes don't sound the same, you know. All guitars don't sound the same, you know.
You wouldn't call it an Octavia fuzz box?
Not really, because, you know, the fuzz sound on it is more tied up with its own internal sound, you know, rather than you just can't use it as a fuzz box, you know, because there's combinations of notes that you can't play because we are generating harmonics that wouldn't be musically related, you know.
So would Hendrix use the Octavia in conjunction with the fuzz box?
Not necessarily, not on stage. You know, we used to hook them up in series. Basically, we used to hook up a wah-wah.
What kind of wah-wah?
I used to use a crybaby a lot. And then a fuzz box, and then an Octavia, you know.
What kind of fuzz box was it?
We used to use, depending on whether it's on studio or on stage, you know. On stage, quite a lot. We used to use either one of mine or a fuzz face, Dallas Arbiter fuzz face.
Fuzz phase?
Fuzz face, F-A-C-E.
F-A-C-E, okay.
And that. In the studio, I haven't, you know, like on Axis Boulder's Love, that album, and some of the other hits, we used to use some of my studio fuzz boxes, which are more sophisticated than the one that you would use on stage, because we've got access to more variables, you know, within the unit, so we can tailor the sound, you know, exactly to the sound of the record, you know.
Well, you were there at the recording of Fire and Purple Haze?
Yeah, that was, we recorded those. That was my first session with them. That was about 3 weeks after we met, and we recorded those 2 records. We recorded the basic tracks, you know.
Where was this at?
Olympic.
Olympic Studios.
Olympic Studio Barnes, right?
And,
Studio 1.
You were there during the actual recording?
Yeah.
How did he record those 2 songs?
Well, basically, they were recorded 4 tracks, and, you know, we called guitar, bass, and drums at first.
Was there overdubbing or double tracking?
Yes, to a limited degree, but you have to realise that, of course, that we were recording 4-track, and at most, I think we only used to bounce once. You know, we go from one 4-track to another.
You only used what, once?
Well, if you're recording 4-track, you know, Axis Boulder's Love album was recorded 4-track, same as Sgt. Pepper's, same as the Cream album.
Yeah.
Because, you know, 8-track in 1968 was just about coming out. And no, I said in the most recording, I think you know, it would only be bounced once. In other words, you take one 4-track recorder, you know, and just clear one track, you know, by mixing it down, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe adding another one at the same time, because you've only got 4 tracks to play with, you know.
How much overdubbing was there on those 2 songs?
Not a lot, really.
Not a lot?
Probably the maximum of 3 guitar tracks, you know, and vocals and backing vocals, you know.
3 guitar tracks?
Probably. I don't think there's any more than that on most of them. You know, I said Eddie Kramer about that. He'd probably tell you more, or he may not tell you. He may not tell you as much. You know.
He won't. He doesn't discuss it.
I know. Well, he's a funny cunt like that. You know.
Yeah.
He's closed mouth because, you know, I don't know why. Because to be quite frank, he didn't have very much. He didn't have any say with a guitar sound to that, because Jimmy and I used to get them all in the studio, you know, come back in the control room, you know. Jimmy himself used to do some of the complex planning and the panning of the signal from left to right, the panoramic control, you know. And he was very instrumental in the creative sound of the mix, you know, which did not come from the engineer, as you can see, because if it did, you know, let's be frank, we can't put this, but obviously Kramer's never produced anything like that since then, has he?
No.
Right.
What was unique about the fuzz box used on the cut Axis Boulder's Love?
I guess the most unique thing about it was that we had incredible long sustain, and we never used it again.
Why?
Why? It was a nostalgic thing, because I don't. Well, it's hard to say that. That particular cut actually went on for maybe 8, 10, 12 minutes. In reality, in the original, you know.
Then you trimmed it down?
Well, yeah, because, you know, it wouldn't fit on the album, you know.
Yeah.
And, no, it was just a very, very smooth sound. It was like, if you listen to the cut, there's absolutely no sort of, as he changes from note to note in like the solo, it just sort of hums along, you know.
Yeah.
There's no electronic or a nasty little transitional period as you may go from one note to another. This is what I specialise in the fuzz box, is that once you can hear that nasty little breakup, you know, it ceases to be magical, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
And one becomes aware of the technology involved, which, of course, as far as I'm concerned, is to be avoided at all costs, you know. You know, I mean, the technology of getting the sound is one thing, you know, and it's of interest to your readers, but I mean, in actual fact, it doesn't sell the records, you know.
Sure.
You know, if the technology isn't visible, you know, obviously, well, you know, it's not visible, but I mean, you know, if you're not aware of it, you know, it's, I don't know, the effect's much better, you know, because you tend to create more magic, you know, and it's more real, you know.
Roger, then you went on tour with Hendrix after Axis Boulder's Love?
No, we cut Axis Boulder's Love, let me think. I think what period of time we cut that? I guess we must have cut that at the end of We cut that in the end of '66. Oh no, we cut that early.
No, it was about the end, 60, end of 66, beginning of 67?
Well, when did the album come out?
I think beginning of 67, February? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, it must be beginning of '67 then.
Yeah.
Because I went on tour, yeah, beginning of '67. Then he did his first tour.
Was that the one where
I'm just trying to get chronologically to get in my head. I think I must have met him around about. Did I experience? Yeah. Around about. I said it's probably around about the beginning of '67, wasn't it? Probably cut. Yeah. Yeah. Must have cut it around about then because it was released around October, November '67, if I remember.
And when did you work with him until?
Well, we still had relationships with him right up to the time he died. You know, even though I never really worked. Apart from I went on tour with him for one American tour. You know, around about beginning of '68.
Is that the one where he started as an opening act for the Monkees for a couple of shows?
No, that was the second tour. Which was a series of dates all across America that lasted about a month. That we were just basically playing on our own, or with the Soft Machine as a backup group in some places. Other gigs we played with, we played Fillmore with John Mayall, Albert King.
And what was your function with him?
I was just really there just to make sure that everything sounded right on stage. I mean, I didn't mix the sound out in the audience. I wasn't a road manager. I was just there to take care of the guitars and just to make sure that when Jimmy went on stage, he sounded right.
Yeah.
I guess it's like like a security blanket.
Did you work on the other records too? Like Electrical Ladyland?
I wasn't down in the studio for those, but we were still supplying him with some equipment, some fuzz boxes and Octavias and various other things, I was there for the recording of the Band of Gypsies album on New Year's Eve at the Fillmore.
What was that like?
It's a nice night, it's a little bit, I don't know, Jimmy was just feeling out his new band with Buddy and Billy Cox,
What kind of equipment did he use on that album?
Well, it was done live. He used one of my fuzz boxes, one of the Octavios. I don't know, just normal stuff, really.
What kind of fuzz box?
He had one of my special ones for that evening.
What was special about it?
In comparison with the other ones, just a slightly different sound, I guess, really. Quite similar to the ones we used on Access Bold as Love, but not quite, a little bit raw,
How many fuzz boxes did you make for him all total, Roger?
Oh, I don't know. I'm really not sure, But probably at least 5 or 6 different variations, Because we made altogether about 16, 17 different ones.
Did Hendrix come up and say, I want it to sustain longer, I want it to sustain shorter?
No, we just used to talk, like more or less in, just the way it should sound, which is more, like whether it's going to sound like a spaceship going away, whether it's going to sail up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's more in sort of artistic terms because one can't exactly say what one intends to do electronically, because it's too hard because one influences the other, There's obviously certain criteria that you want, you want a reasonable amount of sustain. You want it to sound fat. You want it to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all basic things,
What was your impressions of Hendrix as a person, Roger?
Very, very, always very, very gentle, very gentle, just a really beautiful guy, really. I mean, I've never seen him, really sort of, just very gentle, very honest and quite truthful. Really a nice guy, I didn't see he was on an ego trip or anything like that. That's what you mean, no?
No, I didn't. I've never heard him accused of that.
No, not at all.
And then you went after. When did you leave Hendrix and go to Olympic Recording?
68.
And what did you do at Olympic?
I was designing and building equipment for their studios.
What kind of stuff?
Oh, like we were making parts of the recording studio desk, and just because Olympic at that time, they build most of their own recording studio consoles,
So you're making consoles and stuff?
Yeah, making parts of consoles and that sort of thing, yeah.
And how long did you work there?
About a year.
69. Then what did you do?
Well, I was getting married at the time, and then there's, I don't know, and I was just in the process of a couple of years of getting my corporation together, you know.
Roger Mayer Electronics Incorporated?
Yeah.
And what do you, you're still with that company now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And what kind of stuff did you develop then and now? I'd like a little history of the company.
Well, the actual company was started in 1974. Well, 1973 is the first year, you know. And we make recording studio limiters. We make equalizers. We make portable mixing desks. We make full-size recording studio consoles.
You make what? I'm sorry.
Recording studio consoles, the desks.
Consoles?
Yeah. We make all sorts of things. Limiters. And most recent product is the Roger Mayer noise gate, RM68 noise gate, of which we
sell. What noise gate?
We make noise gates at the moment, which we sell rather a lot of throughout the world, you know.
And what's the name of them?
The RM68.
RM68?
Yeah, noise gate. There's a whole series of them. There's 3 different models of those.
Are these marketed by Roger Mayer Electronics?
Yes, they are. Yeah, and we have a distributor in England and Finland, all over the world. You know.
Now, has the Octavia been marketed?
No.
Will it be marketed?
Yeah, we're just coming out with it. It's going to be ready, I guess, around about the beginning of the year, February, March.
March 79.
Yeah.
Is this going to be similar to the one Hendrix used?
Yeah, definitely.
What's going to be different about it?
The enclosure is completely different. The basic thing that's different with it is that we have a photo optical switch in it.
What kind?
Photo optical switch in it. So
what's that allow you to do?
Allows you to do the actual switch. It means that there's no moving parts in the switch at all.
How does it work?
It works by light. You know, in other words, there's a piece of the mechanical thing crosses the light beam, and then the actual unit is switched in and out of the circuit electronically by FETs, which means there aren't any clicks when the unit comes in and out. You know.
So would you interfere with the light? You stop the beam of light?
Inside the box. Yeah, we actually intercept the light beam.
How would the guitarist turn it on then?
Well, there's just a button. There's a big button on the top of the box that only moves about 1/8 of an inch.
And what happens when you press it?
You just press it. It will just change over the sound from straight into whatever you have preset electronically, instantaneously, without any clicks or anything else. And the unit is mounted in a cast aluminum closure that's very strong and enables you to, in other words, the philosophy behind the box is that, it's a very strong aluminum casting, right? That's in the shape of a spaceship. I can't tell you any more than that, right?
Yeah.
But the top of the spaceship has got this button on it, and it looks like part of the canopy.
Yeah.
And it only moves a little bit. And the box is so strong that you can literally jump up in the air and land on the box on the button, and you change the sound. You see? You can't break the switch because there's nothing actually moving.
and you can you program the sound.
Yeah, there's 2
controllers
on the back, and 2 jack plugs, and you can program the sound, which is switched in and out of the circuit electronically.
What kind of effects can you produce with it?
Well, you can produce certainly the same sound as used on Purple Haze, and things like national anthem sound at Woodstock. Some of the space sounds. It's got incredible sustain.
How would you switch programs in the middle of a song, say?
Well, you just hit the button and it just changes it. Bang. You just have to tap the button. It's almost like a calculator keyboard. It's very strong.
Yeah, there's one button though, but will you get all sorts of different effects off it?
No. You'd have to pre-program them. It isn't a program sequence. Because this is a relatively simple box. In other words, if I was going to build something for someone, it cost a lot of money. You may just have 5 buttons on the floor. 5 different sounds.
So would there be a separate button for each sound if somebody was looking for a lot of... Suppose he wanted to divide the octaves and then he wanted to do a fuzz.
Well, you can actually do that. Our box is a little bit more... It's different than that. In other words, it isn't a straight, frequency synthesized divider and that sort of thing. It doesn't sound like that.
What's it sound like?
It's very hard to describe. You really have to wait and see. The best thing is to say, listen to Little Wing, listen to, on Axophone, listen to Purple Haze, listen to Band of Gypsies. You'll get some idea.
What I don't understand is how you can get a lot of different effects from it with one button that you push once.
Well, because you can, but you have to reset the controls,
What's that take?
What? You just turn with your fingers,
Oh, so you could bend down and turn it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, in other words, for one song, you would only get one effect out of it unless you stopped and turned it?
I mean, the box is set up, it's quite simple, it's just set up, it's like another sound that you can have on the floor. You can have a fuzz box, one of these or whatever you want.
Is it still going to be basically an octave divider?
No. It goes up, it doesn't go down.
How would you describe it then?
Well, technically?
Yeah.
Basically, it's a frequency doubler with some additional frequency shaping circuits within it, But it also contains envelope generating, amplitude modulation, a whole bunch of other things. It's too complicated to physically write it down. If you could write it down exactly what it was doing, people would have produced it already.
Yeah.
No, it's a combination. When people see it, they say, "Oh yeah, well." They put it on the oscilloscope. Oh yeah, I can't understand what it does. But when you hear it, that's the whole name of the game.
What about the synthesizer you made for Malcolm Cecil?
Yeah.
What's the background on that?
Well, we built quite a few modules in conjunction with Malcolm Cecil. He owns this big synthesizer that was used on the
Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, Music of My Mind, the first 3 albums there. And it's got, it's just a very, very complicated big synthesizer built in a semicircular configuration. We were just interfacing a lot of his existing equipment and building some new digital control equipment that fits inside the synthesizer to enable Malcolm to do all sorts of things, that are quite unique with that particular synthesizer,
What year did this come down, Roger?
Oh, that's about 73.
Okay, let me turn my tape over, okay?
Right.
How did you get hooked up with Ernie Isley?
They called me up because of Malcolm Cecil. Malcolm Cecil at the time was recording them, and he said to Ernie, give us a call, give Roger a call and see what he can do for you, Ernie, I don't know, Ernie, in my estimation, is probably the best, rock soul guitarist around, especially for what he does. I mean, I don't think the people yet have heard how he can play, because he keeps a pretty low profile with the Isley Brothers.
Was he using was he using one of your Octavias on things like Who's That Lady and Summer Breeze?
Summer Breeze first? No, I didn't do the first album with him.
So, which album did you start with?
All the other ones. I don't know, it was Live It Up, I suppose.
Live It Up?
Yeah, that's using Octavia.
Is that basically the same one that Jimi Hendrix used?
Basically, yeah. So, slightly different emphasis on the sound. We turned early sound to be slightly more sort of, I guess, silky would be the word.
Silky?
Well, yeah, it's a little bit more flowing, I guess. It's not quite as raw in some aspects,
And
different style of playing too.
How many of your, you made 10 Octavias for Hendrix?
Oh, I don't know, that's just a number,
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how many because,
Do you know what happened to them?
Well, who knows? It's like where's all Jimmy's guitars,
Yeah.
Same question, I guess, people have stolen them, people have hoarded them, he lost some, We used to get stuff stolen all the time while we were on the road, Even though the amplifier stolen right off the stage, because people used to storm the stage and things, Used to get quite hectic. Those are the days when you always had a riot every night,
What kind of things are you planning to do in the future?
What, in terms of guitar pedals?
Yeah. You got any ideas?
Yeah, we're coming up with we'll be doing the October. We're doing a fuzz box. I guess we'll do our own type of Leslie box, which will be slightly different.
Your own way?
A box that really creates the sound of the sound moving more effectively than say would a regular flanger or those other sounds. I mean, we have some new things coming up too, which we're not prepared to talk about right now. Obvious sort of reasons, unfortunately. But I think that the first plan is to let some of the other sounds out that we were doing, And if there's anybody around, who can make use of them, great. If there isn't, well, that's all right too,
Yeah. What do you think about how music's changed since Hendrix's time?
I don't think it's changed, I think one must also include at the same time was also that Hendrix, one must include the other groups at the same time who were very popular. If we talk about English groups, that would be the Who, the Beatles, the Stones, Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, who were in the Yardbirds and later went on, the rest is history, I don't think, in all honesty, that any of the newer groups that have emulated or tried to emulate some of the earlier groups in style, those groups that I might call second, third, fourth generation Stones or the Who, right? I don't think they're really saying anything fucking new in terms of what's going on. I mean, I don't think there's been any real significant in that type of music. There hasn't been any real significant players or any real significant groups to have merged. I mean, one has groups, like Foreigner, Bad Company, this and this and this. But I still don't think they've still not achieved the success that the Stones are achieving today. Tired and old and in the grave, as some people would like to say. I mean, the Stones are selling more records now than they've ever sold. And this is probably true of the Zeppelin or any other act that was around at that time. I think it is fair to say that these people, it's like the Who. It's like Peter Townsend said. We said, well, until somebody comes up and knocks me off my perch, I'm still going to be there, And I don't think that there hasn't been too many new people. In terms of guitarists, I don't know. I don't think there's been anyone. Well, there's certainly no one like Jimmy,
That's true.
Then. I don't think there's any players. There are any other players who aren't as good as Page either for what he does. I think these people have pretty well established themselves. I think if they continue to play and they keep their shit together, they're going to be hard people, to sort of, keep down because they had years of experience of playing with the same people, And this is very, and it's also impossible for new people to appreciate, they'll always be asking questions, they'll ask me questions, what do they use? People get so hung up with the technicalities, it seems. Like what strings, what this, what that. I mean, when in all honesty, does it really matter? I mean, it probably doesn't, because if Jimmy picked up virtually any guitar or anyone who can play, it's going to sound better than the next person, right?
Sure.
This is what is a reality to me, the truth, I can't see. There's people I like, there's records I like, but I don't think we've had any real guitar virtuosos since then. Do you?
No, I can't think of one. To be honest.
Can't think of. I think Ernie's great,
Yeah.
and he's I guess for a newcomer, he's certainly gained quite a lot of respect. Even though as far as I'm concerned, we haven't even started yet.
Yeah. Well, knowing from my experience here, everybody on the staff of this magazine feels Hendrix is the top. There's no question about it.
No, there's none. No, not as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I've never seen any man, like electronically, you give him a new box. I've never seen anyone assimilate into their own head what something can do as fast, In other words, a lot of people, you give them something that's very far out electronically, they'll pick it up and they'll play exactly what they played before and expect it to make that sound better, which of course is ridiculous because they haven't it's the electronics plus the guitar plus yourself that make up one unit. It's all part of one thing. It's not, oh, the box doesn't do this. If it doesn't do it, we'll find out what the fuck it does do and use it. I mean, there may only be, say, 3 or 4 combinations of notes you can play, but they may be so great, you know, it's enough to make a hit record.
Sure.
You know, this is what I think people don't, this is what I find, you know, especially with younger players, you know, they're all sort of looking back and saying, Jimmy sounded great and all this. They aren't searching within themselves as to why, you know. They just don't look hard enough, and this is why I don't think we've seen I just don't, we haven't seen anything new, you know. I don't think there's a group around that can play a simple, you know, song, a 1-3-5 song like the Stones can, you know.
Sure.
I mean, you know, the songs that the Stones have, Christ knows how many hits out of, say, EAB or ADE, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it just goes on forever, you know. It's just, you know, but every song sounds slightly different. It's them, but there's no one who can sound just like they can or play that steady, you know. This is what I think the secret is, you know. It's definitely in the sounds, you know. I mean, I don't think no one will say that Keith Richards is a virtuoso guitar player, but there again, he's a great guitar player for what he does, you know. Playing with Charlie, you know, it's the same with most of the people. They're not fantastic. I mean, John McLaughlin's probably one of the world's best technical guitarists. People like Larry Coryell, all these people, right?
Yeah.
But they don't particularly excite you, you know. You know.
Roger, what other people have used your equipment other than the ones we've just talked about?
A bunch of people. People like the Pretty Things. People like
Pretty Things?
Sid Barrett, Pink Floyd.
What did Pink Floyd use?
Use Octavia. Sid Barrett had one.
I'm sorry, what?
Sid Barrett had one.
Had a what, an Octavia?
Yeah. Peter Frampton in his early days, I think, had an Octavia.
With Humble Pie?
Yeah, just at the beginning of Humble Pie. Steve Marriott. There's a lot of them. I'm trying to think of some of the older ones.
But Hendrix is the one who pioneered it with you?
Well, he was the one that after I met him, you know, I really devoted most of my attention towards it, you know. Because I've never been one to particularly hang around groups, and I don't like, be frank with you, I don't like some of the attitudes of them, you know. They're difficult people, you know, we can't print this, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just feel, you know, I only work with people now I'm totally comfortable with, you know. It's got to be fun, first of all, and if it ain't fun, fucking, because I don't need that sort of, you know, that sort of short money, you know what I mean? Just not worth it, you know. And a lot of people in England, I guess, became somewhat, I'm not jealous, but I guess it is jealousy, really, I mean, because I was just working for Hendrix. In fact, I read one article about Page in your magazine. You're saying, yes, Hendrix was a very lucky man to have me working for him, you know?
Sure.
And that sort of thing. So that, you know, that gives you some idea of the underlying attitude, because I guess at the time that Hendrix became successful in England, you know, he upset a lot of people, actually, you know.
Sure.
You know, because everyone wanted it, you know, I mean, the man just got up on stage with Clapton and blew him off the stage, you know, first gig, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, you know, this is reality, you know, I mean. These people, you know what I mean, and then, you know, like I've done some stuff for Page, and then I come along and help Hendrix. It's just like the fucking competition, you know what I mean?
Sure.
You know, and people get, well, not upset, but certainly, well, you know, I guess they felt, a lot of the English guys are too closed-mouthed, you know. In other words, you know, they think that their sound's them, that no one can sound like them. This and that's bullshit. Because Jimmy used to come along and completely dispel all that shit, you know.
Sure.
Because he wouldn't play exactly like them, but by God, you know, like, he certainly made people sit up and take notice, you know.
I'm happy to report that Roger Mayer is still producing effects pedals and studio electronics. Check out his website, which comes right up when you search his name. For lots more on Roger Mayer and Jimi Hendrix, check out my book, Stone Free, Jimi Hendrix in London. Before signing off, I want to thank my producer and engineer, Nik Hunt, and the fine folks at the University of North Carolina Southern Folklife Collection. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you next time.